Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Come to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is John Mark Tully, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, with the mo-host, Mr. Garret Jones. Garret, how are you today?
I am fantastic. I've been looking forward to this episode all week.
All right. I have too. This is going to be a fun one because we're going to be talking about the Clone Wars, and not just the Clone Wars, but our 5 favorite episodes. So this is going to be a fun, a quick episode. We're going to be shortening our episodes, kind of condensing them down, but more bang for your buck with less time. That's how we're going to do it. We're going to try to get the most we can get out of it. And so why don't you start us off, Garret, with our with your top 5. Are you going in reverse order? Or are you going from 5 to 1?
Go in reverse order. I'm going to go from 5 down to 1. And I had an idea of which episodes I wanted to specifically target. I'm really kind of curious to see what kind of crossover we have between my list and your list. It's going to be really interesting because I mean, there's what, 7 seasons to go off of.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So there's a lot of ground to cover, and so I decided to go with my gut on most of them. Now, I did say last week, we made the rule that it could just be a single episode, or it could be like maybe a particular story arc, because there are some episodes that just kind of continue a particular arc. And so I kind of played into that because that's just how I am. So I'm adding my top 5 here, and I'm going to remove a banner because we don't need that at the moment. But here are my top 5 Clone Wars episodes and or story arcs. In number 5, I'm going to go with the Zillo Beast.
Ooh,
I am a big fan of monster movies, especially Godzilla. And this had that kaiju feel. It's like, what if you had some alien version of Godzilla and you dropped them right inside the biggest city in the galaxy, and this is what you get. This was such a fun pair of episodes. It was kind of sad because of how it starts evolving, because there's kind of a King Kong-esque vibe to it, where you've got all these clone troopers going after the Zillo Beast, trying to shoot it down, and yet it's impervious to the harm, and it's just making it even angrier and angrier. But what I think was interesting is that you've got Palpatine wanting to weaponize it somehow and turn it in and figure out how to make armor from this, or weaponize its other abilities. And I thought it was both sad, but at the same time, a really exciting episode.
Yeah, definitely.
My number 4 is a standalone episode. It's called Water War. They're on the Mon Cala homeworld, and they are actually, I can't remember if there's one. I think it was just a one standalone episode, but I think sorry about that. I started having a phone call, even though I've got my do not disturb on. Interesting. But the premise of this is that the Mon Cal are going head to head against the Quarrens, and gosh darn it. Holy cow, I'm getting phone call after phone call. That is weird. I shouldn't be getting those. Anyway, I apologize. So what's going on with this is that you've got the Mon Cal, who are very much part of the Republic. You've got the Quarrens, who have gone separatist, and you've got this shark dude. You can kind of see him in the background there behind Ahsoka, who is just stoking tensions on both sides. And the reason why I picked this particular episode is because if you go back and you look at the 2D animation Clone Wars miniseries that Cartoon Network put out, they actually reference this battle in one episode, and you see Kit Fisto doing his thing as a Jedi, and you've got a good and so they played off of that. They embellish the story a little bit, and I really like that. Mm-hmm. My number 3 pick is
Mm.
the Palm Krell Umbara story arc. There's about 4 episodes in this story arc, and I really liked it because Palm Krell, like, just going into it, when you are first introduced to this Jedi character, you know there's something off about him. You just can't figure out what it is. He's really harsh with the clones, and usually Jedi, as strict as they are, they're not really one for being essentially racist. Like, he treats them like they're second or third class citizens, if not worse. Like, there's a huge disdain for them. And the further you get in this, and spoiler alert if you haven't watched the Clone Wars, but he turns out he's gone to the dark side. And like, he's not Sith, but he's definitely not really a Jedi anymore. He's really gone off the end, and he is just like every brutal tactic he can think of, he is using it. And so his own clone troopers turn against him. And so you get to see this kind of an inkling of what if clone troopers turned against their Jedi leaders for the right reasons, not because they're programmed to. But I think because of the harshness, it allowed them to justify. And so, like, later on, these same clone troopers probably saw some of the instances where they felt, well, you know what, we had this one instance with this Jedi, you know, Order 66 is kicking in. I'm totally justified with this. You know, the Empire is trying to protect us. So you kind of see it from both sides. My number 2 pick, I wrestled with this one. My runner-up for this was actually the box with where Obi-Wan's in disguise. And I thought, you know, that was such a great episode where, you know, he's pretending to be a bounty hunter, and he's going through this huge test to figure out if he's one of the guys, and he's trying to keep his cover from being blown. But this arc, the Altar and the Ghost of Mortis, were just standout awesome, because you get another understanding of how the Force is balanced. You've got the father who's in the middle; he is balanced. You have the daughter she's the light side of the Force, and you have the son who is obviously the dark side of the Force. And you can kind of see some elements of how the designs on the son's face they match up with what we see of the Utapawan Inquisitor in Rebels and in Obi-Wan Kenobi. So there's some of that overlap there. But the other thing I really like about this episode is because it gives us a great voice performance from Sam Witwer, who played Starkiller in the Force Unleashed series. And he's done a lot within Star Wars. He did and this is what brings me to my number 1. My number 1 obviously is the Brothers and Revenge story arc that brings us the return of Darth Maul. And Darth Maul is one of my favorite characters from the prequels. I loved that character. He got such little screen time, but he was so enigmatic, so just so awesome. The fact that they had Ray Park, who is a master martial artist, playing this character, I thought was amazing. And Sam Witwer came back. He does the voice for Darth Maul. He did the voice for Darth Maul in Solo, a Star Wars story. And he does such a great job playing it. Like, him screaming out Kenobi is just one of the best. Like,
Kenobi!
So like, I would love to see some kind of like a scene, because like in The Force Unleashed, Sam Witwer also does the voiceover for Palpatine, and he does a really good job of it. And I would love to see an animated version of the dialogue between Palpatine and Luke Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi, where you've got Sam Witwer working off of Mark Hamill. I think the two of them would just have a blast.
That would be fun. That'd be fun.
So those are my top 5.
All right. Well, I will say this: we only had one crossover.
Really?
Yes, only one. So unfortunately, I don't have the cool thing, but it's cool slides. But my number 5 is, hold on, Rookies. It's not working. Hold on. Rookies is my number 5. It is, of course, the episode where the shinies go and they have to report in, and it turns out it's a trap. I like it because it's the first episode where you really get to see just the clones. There's one of the first truly clone-centric episodes, and it really helps to humanize, which had already been starting to be done throughout the series, but Rookies just kind of really and shown that you can have a Star Wars show and not heavily focus on the main characters. So that was my number 5.
The other thing I think stands out about Rookies is that it's one of the first episodes that we get with the clones. Where you get to see their personalities, and to have D. Bradley Baker, who does the voice of every single clone in the series, like you see him doing all these different character types. They may have a similar voice, but he does something different with each one, where they sound the same because they've got the same vocal patterns, but they're tweaked just enough to give them personality. And I thought that was really cool.
Yes, I like it too. So my number 4 is The Wrong Jedi. One of the last episodes of the original run on the Cartoon Network before it went on hiatus, and of course we were later able to get a season 6 and 7, but just such a good episode, such a gut-wrenching ending. I mean, just so heart-wrenching in my mind, of Ahsoka walking off, and I think this, as good as it was, though, this is one of the reasons why everyone was clamoring for season 7, because they wanted some closure from this episode. But just such great voice acting work from Ashley Eckstein, and just an amazing. Yeah, Matt Lanter did an amazing job in that final scene, that last scene, when when Anakin is telling him that he knows how she understands, and then we have the kind of, not, I wouldn't say flashback, but in Rebels, the episode in Rebels where she has to wrestle with that decision, and ask herself, is she the cause of what happened to her master? Is her walking away from the Order, is she somehow culpable in all of that? So my number 4 is Wrong Jedi. My number 3 is one that is really, the title comes from one of the from actually the opening crawl in episode 3, where it says there were, let me see if I can find, heroes on both sides. And of course, as you probably have guessed, the episode that I'm talking about is Heroes on Both Sides. Let me find the I'm not finding it. Anyway, it was just, it showed that it gave a different view of the Separatist. I think up to that point, the movies just showed the Separatists as the bad guys, and even most of the Clone Wars, they were kind of shown as the villains. They were the Nazis. They were the Russians. Whatever analogy you want to give to it, that's how the Separatists were. But this showed a different view, that not everyone that was on there was these evil, masterminds that were trying to, take over the galaxy. That many of them just wanted, independence and freedom, and they saw that the Republic was flawed, and there need to be changes done.
Yeah.
And just giving sort of a a new side to that story was really a really interesting, I thought, really interesting dichotomy. All right, and my number 2 is the one where we both agree. It is the Mortis arc from everything you just said, and I love seeing the hints of what was to come.
Yeah.
Anakin finding out that he was going to become this monster, but then willingly accepting that, yes, that he would forget all this, but he knew what would happen. Knew what would happen, but he still, he had the opportunity to stay there and forego everything that was to come. But he knew he still had a job to do. He knew he still had, that there was a bigger plan. The Force had something bigger planned for him than that. And I just thought that was an amazing, like you said, just amazing story. And
as you're sharing that with me, like one of the things that just popped in my head is going back to the 2D animation miniseries. In the second season, there's an episode where Anakin, he is technically a Jedi Knight, but he maybe it's in season 1. I don't remember. But they go to this ice planet called Nelvana 5, and the premise is that the techno
Union.
Yeah, the Techno Union. Thank you for that. They have built some kind of base, and they're doing something to weaponize the inhabitants, and they're mutating them to some extent. And Anakin goes on this solo mission, and he's given like their warrior paint and all that, and it's part of one of his trials as a Jedi. And he ends up facing kind of the mirror challenge, the trial of spirit. And in this, he has a vision of himself as Vader. And so while it doesn't get touched on in this Clone Wars series, I think that there's enough in the Mortis arc that provides kind of a nod to that without going to any extremes or having to use flashbacks or just any dialogue references.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that leads me to my number 1, and my number 1 is the season finale of season 7, Victory and Death. I loved this episode from start to beginning. Again, much like Wrong Jedi, just a gut punch at the end. Just everything was just so well done. From seeing, we get again a new aspect of Order 66. This time from the clones' point of view, and we see it from Ahsoka's point, and then bringing in Hayden Christensen, bringing in getting the audio from Hayden Christensen and Ian McDermott at the end of episode 3 and splicing that in, to finding out how Rex was able to get the chip taken out. The mention of Fives, and then that hallway scene with Maul.
Oh yeah,
that was.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you talk about brutal. I mean, in my mind, the Vader hallway scene on Rogue One is still the best hallway scene in history. But this was just so. And yeah, this is
really well done. It was really well choreographed. Like I honestly think some of my favorite moments in the later seasons of the Clone Wars series entirely are the ones where Ahsoka is having to deal with Maul, whether it's whether it's in the during the Battle of Mandalore or the Siege of Mandalore, or on board the cruiser heading back towards Republic space. I mean, and Order 66 kicking off. I think it's absolutely brilliant writing on the part of the creative team behind this, that they are able to. You've got these two characters, but one is rogue to a Sith Lord, the other one has gone rogue from a Jedi Master, and their story arcs are like two sides of the same coin, and it's so well done, well done.
And then the two final scenes, you have the final scenes where Ahsoka, you see that Ahsoka and Rex took the time to bury all the clones. I mean, that was just so. Oh, and then you just see all the the different and that scene, that whole story arc, that whole Siege of Mandalore story arc. Ahsoka walking in, getting her lightsabers from Anakin, and then seeing that all the clones have had their helmets painted to look like her markings, and then realizing that those same clones were going to be the ones that are going to try and kill her, and then seeing Darth Vader in Clone Wars animation at the end. Yeah. I mean,
that was so cool.
Yes. And then again, him just holding that lightsaber, holding her lightsaber, and just no words said at the end was just.
It really pulls on the heartstrings, because what is happening with these characters. Just how bleak these things are going to turn out, because we see how Vader is throughout the rest of the franchise. From the end of Clone Wars moving forward, we see that.
Yeah.
I mean, even if Palpatine hadn't organized the whole thing with Ahsoka being branded a traitor, that was done completely separate. But he worked off of that, and like it really helped isolate Anakin. And so you see that part of Anakin's story arc throughout, even in stories and episodes and arcs that don't even really include him. He's kind of a side character to those other arcs.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think this episode, especially that whole arc, that whole last arc. I mean, we could do a whole thing on just season 7 alone. Season 7 was probably one of the strongest seasons that they had.
For being such a short season too, it was a really
really good. But that whole, like I said, that whole Siege of Mandalore story arc, really brought, I thought, closure to the entire Clone Wars series. It was a good, there's nothing you can really do as far as adding more to it, I don't think. I mean, that was just kind of a good ending, brought right up to, the Imperial Age, and was just, I thought, it was a good close to the whole Clone Wars series.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I know. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that. I going into season 7, I thought season 6 had a pretty strong closure. I liked the way that, because it kind of wrapped some things up, left, closed off some story arcs that we were kind of curious about. And I'm like, well, we shouldn't touch it. And then, God bless Dave Filoni and his creative team, because they came back in and they showed us just how awesome a 7th season could be. And I was bummed that I couldn't binge watch it all in one day.
I know.
Made me be a little patient, but I really
how dare you? How dare you, Dave Filoni?
But I really enjoyed how that season played out.
Definitely. And, for me personally, looking, trying to find, the top 5 episodes, this was very hard for me. Yeah, I don't know if it
Mhm.
was for you, but there were so many great episodes, and I remember just looking through them and trying to get my top five, and I'd look at some of like, oh, that's a really good episode. That's a really good episode. That's a really good episode. And there were several that I had to cross out because I had to narrow it down to five, and I'm like, I don't know about you, how you if you had some of the same problems of crossing
I
out some and choosing, thinking like, well, I have to choose this one over this one, or no, I like this one better. No, I like this one better.
yeah, I wrestled with it. Like for me, it wasn't so much about putting them in a particular order. I was just wrestling
Yeah.
with because there's so many great story arcs throughout.
Yeah, yeah, that was mine. It was narrowing it down to like even mine, like even though these are my top five, I could
Mhm.
rearrange this in any order I want, in any order. Like I could have
Yeah.
any of these at any order, but mine was just narrowing it down to just five. It's harder for me to find episodes that it'd be harder for me to find episodes that I didn't like of the Clone Wars than it is to find, which ones I like the best, which one are my five best. I think the hardest would be when find, what are the five least favorite episodes. That would be the even harder thing for me to do.
Well, and the the thing about the series is that it's such strong writing. There are, I will admit, there are some episodes that feel like they're filler and like
Hmm.
really do nothing to serve the purpose of the story other than to just kind of pile on some unnecessary drama. Like, for example, what was it, season 3 or season 4 when R2 is stranded on that desert planet with a bunch of other droids, and they've got that little
Oh
tiny
yeah,
alien commander with them, and he's just like berating them because they're droids, and it's like they're the things saving his life because that's what
yeah,
they do. I mean, yeah, sure, it's great, but like the animation is good. But it's one of those episodes. Like I said, it's filler,
yeah.
and it was really kind of an unnecessary part. I would like to have seen a little bit more. Like I would have liked to have seen a little bit more exploration on some of the other Jedi characters. Like
Hmm.
let's see, who's Quinlan Voss? Quinlan Voss is such
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's such a fantastically written character, and like last week I was showing you my Dark Horse run of the Clone Wars graphic novels, and a lot of those books, there's at least one or two books uh, or volumes, I should say, where he is front and center because
Hmm.
he was the Jedi spy. This guy, like he at some point becomes a triple agent. Like he is a Jedi sent behind Sith lines, or in or
Separatists.
uh, separatist lines, as a smuggler or some other kind of rogue character. He is acquired by Dooku, trained in the dark side. They almost turn him to the Sith, and he is sent back to spy on the Jedi, only to be turned again and sent back to spy on Dooku. Like he keeps going back and forth, and like, and he actually has, as far as the graphic novels or comic books, has one of the most satisfying character arcs of the entire Clone Wars, at least in print,
Yeah,
and I thought was really cool.
yeah.
Now, I will say this though, there is a really fun story that popped up uh, in book form. It was it's considered part of the expanded universe, but there's an episode, The Deserter.
Hmm.
I think it's season 2, I believe, and the clones find this clone deserter who's
Yes,
started his own
I forget
family.
what
He's
that
doing
was.
his own thing, and we come back to that character later on, especially in Bad Batch.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and what's interesting is this deserter character. There's a variant of this character in the EU. There's a book called The Cestus Deception, and there is a clone living on that planet, on the planet of Cestus, who he escaped. He deserted. He has started a family.
Hmm. Huh. That's I'll have to look into that.
It's a really good book, and it created one of the antagonist factions in there that's being played by the separatists, and Dooku specifically is this alien insectoid race called the Exting, which are hive mentality, very interesting, and they would have made for they're kind of reminiscent of the Geonosians to some extent, but very different. And I think they would have been really cool to see on screen.
Definitely.
But that's just me.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a fun little talk.
It has.
Yeah. I love the Clone Wars. And well, we will be back next week with more Star Wars talk. Garrett, why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you at?
Well, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at GKJ_publishing. On those social media platforms, I promote my books. I'm a fantasy writer, and I've got 4 books out, working on book 5. Hopefully it'll be out by Christmas. But I also do a lot of promotion for my YouTube channel, which is called GKJ Publishing. My show is called The Right Way, where we do top 10 book recommendations each month, author interviews, which I have one coming up this Saturday with a great, fantastic fantasy writer. And then I do a set of writing tips. Right now we're focusing on world building. So if you're a big fan of Star Wars, you must be a big fan of world building. And so we're talking about that. That'll be launching on the 31st on New Year's Eve. But then just a real fun kicker for you guys. We have in the description a link that I have sent to John. It is a list of every single Clone Wars episode, including the theatrical movie from 2008, in the chronological watch order. So you can see them. There's a total of, if you do not include the theatrical movie, a total of 133 episodes. If you do include it, that's 134. Because that movie is just one really long episode.
Yeah.
But it's everything, including season 7. And even the season 7 episodes are kind of out in a specific order that you have to watch them in for it to make sense with the entire timeline.
Yeah. All right. As for us right here, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us, warofthestars1@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of us. You can also get a hold of us on Twitter. Our Twitter account is @warofthestars1. You can go to our Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and search War of the Stars, a Star Wars planet. If you also don't forget, we are a part of the Red 5 Network, red5network.com for more information. We're also on YouTube. Just search for War of the Stars. Our is @War of the Stars 9510. If you want to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/War of the Stars, or go to our Spreadshirt shop at spreadshirt.com/shop/War of the Stars. We will be back next week with yet another episode of War of the Stars. Until next time, remember, this isn't just my Star Wars. This isn't just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars.
It's our Star Wars.
Until next time, may the Force be with you.
This is the way.